and you should be able to see the comments.
Okay.
Okay,
So I'm
we
not going to
are
focus
live.
on the comments though, because I'll get distracted.
Can you even see them? Wait, we live. We already geeking. We get. I
I
don't
know.
think you can see them once I press it, but then everybody can see them. I thought you would be able to see them on the side somehow, but anyway.
Okay.
So let me see. I just took the picture so we can stay on topic. So you can introduce yourself.
I don't know what you want me to say.
Your
Hello,
name.
everyone. I am Kimberly Merle, and I have been friends with Danielle for God, how long? A long
We can't
time.
be telling our ages.
Like a
I
long
be telling my
time.
age up here, so let me stop. A long time. Like
Yeah.
we started at. We can't say too much of our personal business on you.
Yeah.
But when we started at that job place.
Yeah. A
And
hot mess.
what year was that? 2013?
Had to be 13, 14, early 14.
7, 8. This is year number 8.
Yeah.
Hey y'all, it's a
It's
few
crazy.
people in here. Okay. So we are going to talk about the relationship between Black women and biracial women or mixed women. I don't know what's better, because biracial is biracial and mixed can be mixed with different
multiple.
stuff.
Yeah.
But so we're gonna try to stay on topic, because we will
Yes.
ramble and go on
Yes.
and on, because we're actual friends in real life.
Right.
So we're gonna try to stay focused and not be
Yes.
up here for 2 hours.
Yes.
So okay, so I was looking for my picture. I have so many windows up on my laptop. So, for those of you who are floating in gradually, this is Kimberly. And we're going to be discussing the relationship between mixed women and Black women, and kind of bringing up any topics, good or bad or whatever, just between because we do share space, we do share culture, we do share heritage and things like that. So personally, I think it's important for us to have some kind of rapport, I guess you can say, which I don't think for the most part is an issue.
Right.
But I think some people make it an issue.
Agreed.
So
agreed.
Let me see. Did I just exit out of here? Let me find this. Okay, so what did I say we were going to talk about first? Identity. So it's like a bigger-ish thing where a lot of Black women, and me included, think that it's important now to kind of have our own identity, or that also that it's not fair to even biracial women to just classify them as one thing when they're not. As one race or ethnicity or whatever, when they're race, I guess, when they're not. So, and it's been kind of like a topic of discussion in like YouTube space and in different spaces too, with identity. So I wanted your take on, because somebody had asked me to kind of do an updated video on this topic. So you know what, I was like, I want to be productive and actually bring someone that's biracial or that's mixed up here, instead of it being a like one-sided conversations. And we used to talk about this kind of stuff a while back. In our partying days. We used to talk about this stuff a lot, and like you really like made me see certain things in a different light that of course I would never know, because I'm not mixed. So even though people ask me if I'm mixed, I'm not. But so what is your opinion? I mean, I think we pretty much agree as far as being biracial is biracial, Black is Black, and you know, race is kind of made up, so it can get sticky. But what's your views on how you identify in particular?
So it's interesting because I've always had this conversation, like you said, with you and with my boyfriend. We've had open conversations about this. And one of the things growing up that my parents made sure they kind of instilled in us, and not only my parents, but grandparents as well, is to be proud of who you are. Right. So it's funny because I told him, kids do not identify that they're different until they are told that they're different.
Right.
Right. So I never realized that I had a white mother until a kid came to me and said, "Why is your mom white?" And then I had to step back and go, I don't know, like, why is she white? So I went home, had that conversation with her, and then she explained to me, okay, so you're mixed, right? You have a white mother, a black father. This is how this goes. And so from that point on, I've made it my goal to identify I am mixed, right? So I remember being the biggest pain in the ass. Can we cuss?
Girl. Yeah,
okay. I just remember being the biggest pain in the ass in elementary school specifically because you remember we had those end of year tests. And so the elementary school teachers, they had to fill in some of the information for you at the top. And all we did was the actual test. Mm-hmm. Well, they would always get my race wrong. It was either I'm white or either I'm black. And every year I would say, no, I'm not either one of those. So they would say, oh, well, what are you? I'm other. And they used to get so upset with me, but I would stop the test until they updated my information to other. And I remember as we got older, me and my brothers, our dad kind of, explained to us that obviously, like you've mentioned in your other movie or other video, that if you had a black father, you were identified as black. Okay, makes perfect sense during that time, right? But today, I don't have to do that. I can choose to identify with both because that is who I am.
Right.
The interesting thing with that, though, is like you said, it's kind of been this give and take or this push-pull effect when it comes to, I don't want to say black women because it's not specifically black women, right? It's just people of the black community, right? So it is 1 minute, oh, you're not black, you're mixed, so you need to identify as mixed. And then I'm like, okay, like I'm mixed. And then the conversation is like, oh, y'all hate to be black, don't you? You always want to identify as mixed.
Right.
Like, what do you want me to do?
Right.
I don't understand. So, that, and, we've had this conversation before. So as I grew, that was kind of the biggest issue for me is, what is my identity? What am I? Am I black? Am I mixed? Like, and if I say I'm mixed, am I going to be like scolded every time I say I'm mixed? Like, what the hell? What do I do?
And I'm so guilty of that. Like, I haven't done it in a long time, but because it can be confusing, and I think a lot of people like to identify blackness with struggle. Yeah. Then they like to associate like everything else in a box. Right. And so I definitely see how it would be sticky and how it's confusing because a lot of us we have double spoke, or is that how you say it? We do double speak sometimes. Right. And 1 minute, it's you're not black. Personally, I grew up thinking everybody that was, the one drop rule, thinking everybody that was mixed with black was black. Obviously they were mixed, but that you had to identify as black because of slavery, especially if you're American and you're American, black is half black American and half white. Right. So for us, it's always that, I think, and that's only a thing in America. So for us, it's like that struggle, black people, but black identity revolves around struggle. So if you suffered in slavery, you're black. Right. And so, of course, half black people suffered in slavery. They may have had some privileges, but because ultimately they still suffered, they were still technically slaves, then they have to identify as black. Right. And so it wasn't until I got a little bit older that I was like, wait, something is wrong with this. But then I understand why, as a kid, it would be confusing because as a kid, you don't know what any of this stuff is. And your mom is your mom. She's not black. She's not white. She's not this or that. She's your mother. And it's nothing weird about it until people make it weird. So
Exactly. And it's interesting because you know, I remember when I asked her, she turned red and started crying. Like, she had no idea how to answer the question because she never expected the question to come.
Right.
You know? And I also remember like fighting really hard to make people understand that I was both, right? Because while I understood the one drop rule, to me it was like I'm disrespecting a whole half of my community. Like, how are you making me only choose one? That doesn't make any sense. And so, you know, it was so interesting just how the conversations would go. And I'm like, yeah, but my mother pushed me out, and that's a white woman. So you're telling me that I can't tell you that I'm mixed because you want me to identify as black? It just doesn't make any sense. So yeah.
But then, like you said, if you go around and you say I'm mixed, I'm biracial, I'm mixed, I'm biracial, it's like, oh, you ashamed to be black, you ashamed to be black.
Yeah.
So it's like, I do see how it and why it would be like, okay. So did you ever get used to it, or you kind of like you all had automatic responses?
Used to the
questioning and the like back and forth with.
So I was just telling my boyfriend this. So I never really got asked, what are you, until college, right? We've had this conversation before.
Yeah.
I've never heard that question. So so the first time I heard it, I was completely taken aback. I was like, what do you mean? I'm a girl? Like, what do you mean? What am I? Like, this is so weird. And he was like, no, like, you know, where you from? And I was like, Jacksonville. And he was like, no, like who's your people? And I was just like, you don't know them? Like, what? Like, I was so shocked. And then somebody finally was like, no, like, are you mixed? Are you Dominican? I was like, oh, okay, so I'm mixed, black and white. The question became so normal and so repeated that it was listed in every bio that I had in social media, because I just got tired of having to tell people. Like, I got so tired of it. And so after a certain point, I just used to start telling people I was alien, because I was like, this is not how you're going to approach me. Like, this doesn't make any sense. People would jump in my DM just to say, what are you? What? Like, hi first. Fuck. Like, at least speak. Like, what do you mean? You know? And then for those people, because then, you know, again, you would see the comments about, y'all love not to be black, and y'all love to identify that you're mixed in your bio, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, cool. But at that point, it's like, I can't argue with you, because I can try to have the conversation, but then it becomes an argument, right? Because there's nothing that I can tell you that's going to make you understand me. And there's nothing that you can tell me that's going to make me understand from your perspective, because you're stuck. You know what I mean? You're stuck where you are in that instance. So I just stopped having those conversations. I did try. I tried for a little while, but I completely stopped. I completely stopped.
And I can only imagine, because I remember being and I don't think that I feel like I'm unambiguous. Like, I'm unambiguously black. Like, when you see me walking down the street, you see, nobody really asked me what I am. The only time people ask me if I'm mixed or ask me is when they get close enough to me to see my eye color.
Right.
Then they like, oh, what you mixed with? And then, like, I would have people like try to stand me down that I'm not mixed. And like, so and that's a little small, a little teaser of what I imagine it would be like being actually mixed and having more unambiguous features. And I remember being a kid, like, thinking that something was wrong with me, because people would stop my parents and stuff. And talking about my eye color and my brother's eye color.
Right.
And I'm like, why? It's like my whole life until maybe a few years ago, I just wanted regular brown eyes because people made such a big deal about it.
Right.
That it was and as a kid, you just want to fit in. Like you're not trying to stand out. And I mean, everywhere we went, they would say something to the point where I was like, what is this weird? Like, is it something wrong with my eye color? Like what?
And you know what? It's so funny because I literally just told my boyfriend while we were at dinner tonight, I was like, even though I'm sure there was many mixed people at the time, whatever, for whatever reason, I felt like I was the only one going through that. Right. Like I felt like I was the only one being identified as this mixed girl and nobody liked her. I just felt like I was the only one. So much so, like I just told him, so much so that at no point did I have a conversation with my brothers to prepare them for what they had coming. Right. So when we finally had that conversation, because they're much lighter than me, my brothers. So when we finally had that conversation, they told me in high school they had to start fighting because they were light skinned and they thought they were better than them because they were mixed and this, that, and the third. And my brothers are like, what are you talking about? So it's one of those things where it's just like me, right, growing up in such a mixed environment, at no point did I realize that this impacted other people because I was so kind of in my own little world.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, yeah, it's crazy. It's so crazy.
It's so weird, and like I can't even be. And I remember the first time, because I used to ask people, what are you? Because you don't think it's offensive and you don't think that it's like an odd question because you hear people saying it so much. And I remember before I met you, and I think I told you about this when we was having this conversation about when you first went to college, but this girl that I used to work with, she had a kind of unambiguous look. I mean, ambiguous look, but she got 2 Black parents. She just light skinned. She got, type 3 hair. And like, I asked her, what is she when we was at work? And she like explained to me the problem with that question. She was like, people been asking me that my whole life. She like, both of my parents are Black. Like they just light skinned. Like I'm not mixed. And she said, and that was the first time that somebody sat and explained to me what was wrong with asking. And I never asked anybody what they was mixed with. What are they? Because she was like, well, I'm a human. Like, why are you asking me what am I? As if I'm a thing and not a person, not even who am I? And I was like, oh snap. I never thought about it like that.
Listen, I'm trying to tell you, like I said, the first time I heard it, I was just like, and the crazy thing is, at that point, I had, I think I had made friends. Child, I don't know, but it was hard. Okay, but I will say that at that point, like it really took whoever I was with to try to explain to me what they were asking because I truly did not understand the question. I was just like, I am a human, like she said, like I'm a human. Like I said, I'm a girl. From Jacksonville. Like, how do you answer this question? I don't understand. So yeah, and then going back to your eye color, we've had that conversation before. It's just because people are so kind of small-minded, and we haven't really seen too many people. Well, I won't say that. Let me think of how I'm gonna say it. I will say we haven't seen. Well, I don't even look. We haven't seen many people with different color eyes, but that's not true, right? As time has progressed, we've started to identify this. We've started to identify those beautiful Black children, Black women, Black men that have the blonde hair, blue eyes. Like we're starting to identify this, but because I think at the time the media was so kind of narrow minded in what a Black person was,
exactly,
we had absolutely no idea of what that could have been. And because you had those hazel eyes, because you had those green eyes, because you had those gray eyes, you had to be mixed.
Right.
So it's just,
and which was trippy for me because like I'm literally like my mom is 13 of them, it's 14 of my dad. I have a big family.
Right.
A lot of them have kids. Like one of my aunts got 9 kids. One of them got 11 kids. Like I have a buttload of cousins.
Right.
I am the first person, and it's a recessive gene. I'm the first person in my family for 2 generations to have these color eyes. And then my twin brothers were behind. My older sister don't even have them. So it made her feel some kind of way. And she wore contacts for years when we were young because it made her feel some kind of way. And I was the first person in 2 generations for them to show up. So I'm like, and y'all want to try to argue with me if I'm Black or not?
But you know, it's interesting because my Black grandfather, he has blue gray eyes. So it's so kind of like it's just interesting. Like again, some things are kind of like some things I grew up with. And then, you know, I kind of get into this world of understanding, okay, so I finally get, you know, the Black college. I'm finally understanding everything. And then I see my grandfather again and I'm like, oh, these your ass. Like,
right, because now it's a thing.
Right. Yeah. When it had become so normal. Like I was looking in this man's eyes all the time, you know, never identified it. And now it was something that we had to have a conversation. Let's sit down, talk. Like, what is this? But to your point about people arguing you down about being Black, same thing about me for being mixed. How about that?
Right.
They're gonna ask me, what are you? I tell them I'm Black and white. And then it's as if that's not enough. That's it. Like you, no, you gotta be mixed with Hispanic. You leaving something out. Like you,
right?
I'm like, no, I'm just Black and white. Like,
right.
Like so, people are crazy.
And luckily now people are trying to separate the identity of Black women versus biracial Black women. And like trying to bridge that gap. Personally, in the conversations that I have, I know I can say things really harsh. So that's why I would rather have you here to explain it. And because a lot of people just assume, oh, if you say Black women, mixed women aren't Black, then that means you don't like mixed women or you don't like light-skinned women. Like that is not the same thing. And I think the biggest issue that that is coming to the forefront is there is a privilege to being mixed in the Black community. It may not be, it is to some degree in whiteness too and in the world, but the most privilege come in the Black community, especially with dealing with Black men. And I think personally, I think this may be a big statement, but personally, I think men are more so the issue. I don't see mixed women and Black women having too many issues with each other until men come into play.
Okay.
And it's like we would like mixed women to not use their privilege, but then it's like that's easy to say when you don't have privilege. And we all to some degree use our privileges to our advantages. Just hope you are a little bit more privileged. And so I think that's where, so luckily we now in 2020, 2021, we're starting to separate that identity and no longer identify as the one drop rule. And then we get to kind of rip the box apart and have separate identities, but we still share space. And so I don't like when I didn't want to make another video about this by myself because I don't like when people assume that if I want to identify biracial women as what they are, which is biracial versus a Black person with 2 Black parents, then that means I have a problem with biracial women or absolutely not. Like some of the most important people in my life, one of my cousins, my favorite person in the world are biracial. Like, so that is absolutely not a thing. And then without telling too much of my cousin business, she half Puerto Rican, but she is very pale. Like she's lighter than you, but she
Right.
has like kinkier hair. And that was a thing for her growing up. I remember her like boo-hoo crying, turning red and everything when we were like 8 because she thought she was white and all of us
Yeah.
were like darker.
Yeah.
And so she felt like she didn't fit in. And so of course at that time I was like, you're not black, you are black, Quana. You just light, you mix, so you light, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, it is intricate, but it's like, I'm glad that we are in a space where you get to identify yourself. And I know we still, because it's new, I think a lot of people still are confused, and a lot of people will still give you that, oh, so you don't want to be black if you identify with biracial, or oh, she ain't black, why you saying you like.
Yeah. And it's interesting. Dang, what was I gonna say? It's interesting about your cousin being light and she's upset about that, right? So that just brings up the whole conversation that we've had before about when I got to the HBCU. When I got the campus, baby, I got the campus just ready. I was ready. Okay, I just knew I was about to have the time of my life. Yeah, joke was on me because they was not fucking with me at all. I get on campus, and as soon as I get there, there's a rumor going around that I'm stuck up. I think I'm too good to talk to anybody because I'm light skinned with good hair. I was like, what the fuck does that mean? And mind
you said you didn't even know what good hair was.
Yes.
Or light skin.
So I'm walking around like, okay. So then, so it was the girl. So I'm like, all right, well, girls are catty. Okay. I'll figure out what it means, but it can't be that big of a deal. Okay, cool. Walking on the yard, guy approaches me. First of all, he was catcalling me. And at the time, I was just not to be played with. So I was just like,
are you now?
Good point. But still, at that time, my attitude was crazy, right? So I was just like, you're not about to talk to me like that. No, I'm good. And he was like, nah, she stuck up anyway. Her light-skinned ass with that good hair. She thinks she's too good to talk to somebody. Da, 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 da. And I was like, what is it? So it became a reoccurring thing for like the first 2 weeks. And so finally I had to call my cousin, and I was like, what the fuck does light skin with good hair mean? And so my cousin tried, this is my black cousin, so she tried her best to explain it. But I still didn't understand, because to me, I'm brown. Right? Like, we both, and I remember telling somebody, like, holding my arm up to theirs, like, bro, I'm brown. What are you talking about? Like, how is this different? And it was like, hell no, you light skinned, this, that, and the third. So finally, I had somebody at the school sit me down. I think it was, like I said, my first round of friends. And
I'm mad at your first round of friends.
That's why I said the way I said that. I don't know. But anyways, so I had them sit me down and explain it to me. And so when they explained the light skin, I'm still at this point arguing that I'm brown. So I was like, y'all are stupid. I'm brown. Like, that's the end of that. They got to the good hair. When I tell you, I have never been so confused in my life. Okay. So they proceeded to explain it to me, and I got it. I did. But at the same time, I'm like, and women sitting in front of me now with curly hair. So I was like, so I got quote unquote good hair because it's not kinky? Like, but you have curls. Like, I don't understand. And at the time, girl, whatever I was doing with my hair was not good. Like, I was just, throwing it half up, half down. It was what it was. But I remember just thinking, like, this is so crazy. Like, because again, my aunt, she always kept a short cut. And so it was always nice and neat, very cute. I loved her hair all the time. My cousin, she had braids all the time. and she had wigs or she had a weave, and I loved her hair. So as life progressed, I was just like, oh, okay, this is cool. Like, I love everybody's hair, only for me to get to school and find out that I got quote unquote good hair. And it still to this day blows my mind, because I'm like, but you have beautiful hair too. Like, I'm so confused. But what ended up happening, and we've had this conversation before, is it took me maybe 2-3 more weeks to hear that consistently. And finally I was like, all right, you know what? This is what y'all think I am. I'm gonna give it to you. I'm gonna be stuck up, the light-skinned girl with good hair. Like, because so from that point on, I moved in a way of what is the word? What is the word? In like a shield almost, right? Just
okay.
Acting
like
as if,
like a defense mechanism.
Yes, acting as if I'm stuck up and I can't talk to anybody, because I was like again, when I got there, I was so excited. I was like, yes, let's go. You know, I'm ready to meet everybody. I'm ready. Like, it's college, whatever. Yeah. Only for me to be shut down so hard, so quickly.
Like, so people in the comments were asking which one of your parents is Black, or which one of your parents is white. So I put in the comments that your mom is white, because they were like, well, she should explain to, but that's not something that your mom could explain in detail. Because
I'm just now seeing a comment. So anyways, I'm sorry.
I have to click it.
Okay. Yeah. Her mom should have explained still. What? But what did you want my mom to explain?
Because, like, what would you, like, I guess, like, about good hair versus bad hair?
What? My mom wouldn't know white. That. Yeah, she's white.
Explain that.
Listen, let me tell you. So, I just said, I called my Black cousin, somebody that should have known how to explain it to me.
Explain it.
And she couldn't.
Because when you said, when you were a kid, when you first heard it and you went and asked your mom, she was like,
yeah. When I asked my mom the first time, she was just like, she was dumbfounded. So I believe also at that time is when she was like, okay, so let me try to get my daughter, get her hair done. You know what I'm saying? Because so my mom went out and made efforts to get my hair done by Black beauticians and all of these different things, so that she could make sure that I was getting what I needed for my hair. But then the beauticians that I went to, they were putting perms in my hair. They were doing all types of different things. Mm-hmm. And my mom was allowing them because she didn't know any better. Right? So she was like, okay, if that's what you think she needs, then okay, let's do that.
Right.
So she did the best she could. My dad, when I tried to explain to him, all he said was, people gonna be jealous. Like, and I'm just like, that's not helpful, Dad. Like, you not telling me nothing. Like, I don't understand. You know what I'm saying? But I think that it was because he didn't understand how to better explain it to me either. So that's why I said I really just had to have somebody at the school sit down and have that conversation with me, because nobody else that I knew how to have that conversation.
Right. And see, this is the thing. This is what I need Black women to understand, is to take yourself out of your own bubble, and try your best to put yourself in other people's shoes. Your mom had the privilege of being white. Okay. So she didn't have to worry about race. She didn't have to have these conversations. Right. How would your mom know? To expect your mom to know now. And that was back in the day. Now, white moms now, millennial white moms now will probably have a little bit better vocabulary to discuss this.
Yes, agree.
So I don't expect a white mom in the 80s to have the same conversations with their biracial children as they did in the 90s, because your mom loved you. So if she knew better, she would have told you. She
Right.
would have prepared you.
And so here's the thing. I told my boyfriend this too. When I announced that I was going to an HBCU, I think my granddaddy was the only one who was able to identify that there may be an issue, but at the same time, he did not know how to communicate it. Because I remember him saying, "Wow, okay, um, are you prepared for that?" And I don't think that. I'm like, yeah, it's college, whatever. Why would I not be prepared
Right.
for this? Right? Like, I don't understand. And so he was like, okay, okay. And so, I get there and I remember calling him and he just being like, okay, listen, you're gonna get through this, don't worry about it. But at the same time, like I was telling my boyfriend this evening, I think that he knew there would be an issue as I was growing up, because I remember him just instilling in all of his grandkids, but having the conversations with me of being proud of who you are, like being proud of who your people are.
Right.
Not allowing anyone to tell you any different, regardless of what anyone says, moving forward with that, and so on. So yeah, I don't think anyone could have really been able to prepare me for
Right. Not in a
like
short little conversation like that. And so, I mean, I don't expect a white mom with biracial kids to be able to have the same, even now, even millennial white mom, they won't be able to have and prepare their kids the same way, especially their girl children.
Right.
Because women are affected by colorism more than men are. And most of the time, Black men especially are the heavier perpetrators of it. So and men are passive anyway. So it's like men aren't going to have those like your dad was just like, oh, they're gonna be jealous. It's not that simple. It's a little bit more intricate. Right. Personally, I didn't because I've never experienced that kind of thing before. I've never experienced feeling a type of way about mixed women or saying mixed women are, but I was like that kid that befriended every new person in school. Right. So they wouldn't be, so I was that kid. So I never really experienced it. Anybody was different. Like I remember in kindergarten making a beeline for the white kids or making a beeline for his like, and one time I was like 5th grade and we got like the Hispanic people used to migrate. And so they would come to the school temporarily for a few months at a time. And I would like befriend them just to like, I was that kid that was like trying to make people that seem uncomfortable, make them a little bit more comfortable. So I never experienced like feeling jealousy and that kind of thing, or being like, oh, she thinks she better than, probably because I was the one getting told I think I'm better than everybody, even though I don't. But it's just like a weird, it's an odd conversation to have. And like one comment said that she was just saying that she having mixed kids with either parent should learn the implications of the other race. And that's definitely something that conversations we can have now. Yes. But they didn't have that kind of vocabulary back then. Some of them did. I'm not gonna say nobody did. But it would have been nice if they had the vocabulary to prepare you for going to a HBCU. Right. As like a mixed kid.
So guys, and like I said, I can't see the comments. So I definitely understand the importance of being able to have the conversation. Like, don't get me wrong when I say that, but like Danielle said, just the understanding. I don't think either parent knew what to expect. They'd never gone to college, first of all, right? Right. We had lived I'm from a military town. So my dad has been in the Marine Corps for 20 years at this point, right? So he's been within mixed organizations all his life. So certain lingo has kind of gone out the window. There was instances where, and I have 2 older stepsisters who are fully Black, and I remember him telling them they have good hair. So it's like, so you know what I mean? The definition from what we used it as versus what was now kind of an insult or whatever you want to call it, is completely different. Like I remember this a good example of this is I remember my dad telling me, and to this day, my dad will tell me, "Oh, your hair is nappy," right? Go to a Black college. I said my hair was nappy.
And they was about to bite your head off, I bet.
I said my hair was nappy, and they was snapping. And I was just like, what is the problem? And they was like, your hair is tangled. And I was like, that's what I said. And they were like, no, you said nappy. And I was like, okay, like, you have to explain that to me, because it was completely two different worlds and two different definitions. So yeah, it's definitely a learning curve. I will say that.
What else do we have to talk about? Girl, I cannot find it. I might have deleted it before I airdropped it completely. Wait, I can go on Instagram. Hold on. And I did want to mention, so in a lot of the Black women conversations is erasure. So that's a big part of the conversation, is that, like, in media and stuff, like, of course you can't help that. Like, nobody can do anything about that except the people who's in charge of putting stuff on the TV. But it's like, I guess that's one of the bigger reasons why a lot of people feel that it's important to kind of red tape the identity and stuff. So it can be sticky. It can be a sticky conversation for sure. But
yeah. So I mean, everything's whitewashed. Like, you know, it's the way that it is. I think to your earlier point, that because we are having a conversation now, we know what to look for in order to, like, raise a flag, right? To have that conversation of, like, you need to be able to portray, like, a good example of this is you know, older movies, and I can't remember the actor, but older movies, and one particular actor saying, you know, the only kind of damn it, what is it called? The only scripts that he gets is for a slave movie. And he's like, I don't want that. And it's like, when you take a step back and look at it, it's like, damn, that is all you did, is a slave movie. So then you have to ask your question, or ask yourself, like, why is he only doing slave movies? Is that because that's all he's being presented? Or is that because that's what he's choosing? And to be sure, nobody's just choosing to be in this kind of, in this light, right? So, I mean, like I said, because I think it's coming to the forefront now, we can all be aware. And I know that the privilege thing is past, but I'll bring it up here. Kind of the same thing with that, right? Same thing with the privilege. Like, there are times where you know, I like, so for instance, I got a promotion at my job, but I was the only Black person in the department, right? And I say Black because they see me as Black. Like, I can say I'm mixed, but they see me as Black. So to them, progress has been made. Right? But as soon as I got in there, the first thing I did was hire a Black woman under me.
Right.
And a Black woman under me, so that they can get in there, and so then they can disperse. And so what happened was, I moved out of that role, and the Black woman was able to come in, become a manager in that role, and then she hired nothing but Black people under her. So it's one of those things of, if you're going to have a privilege, make sure you use it in the best of your ability. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly.
And so for instance, the first lady I brought on, I just happened to be her mentor at the time too. So I told her, like, you know, you need to prepare for your interview. You need to prepare for this. I wanted her to be spot on, because I told her, I can't give you the job, right? But I can make a good case for why you need the job, or why you should have this job, if you come to the table ready. And so she did. She came in, knocked it out of the park. And I was like, oh, okay. So this is why she should move forward, right? I was able to back her on that. And, you know, it's just so exciting when you are able to kind of just utilize and leverage that privilege to just make make room for other people. Because at my job specifically, well, I don't know if I need to say that. I will just say that there are a lot of people of color in certain places.
Mm-hmm.
And those places just happen to have phones. And so every time I can get a hold of one, I'm like, hey, see
Right.
me. Let me send me your resume. Like, what's going on? Because, you know, people can only go as far as they let them. Right. And if they don't know that there's opportunities, if they don't know that they have the skill set to get these other roles, they will never branch out. And unfortunately, sometimes the people in those management positions over those teams do not communicate positions that they're available for. Right. So I try to make sure that, you know, I'm reaching out, I'm trying to help. But, you know, like I said, it's not until you understand what you can leverage from your privilege that you're able to understand how you can help.
Yes, which is the exact same thing people say to white people.
Yeah.
So when white people discover what white privilege is, and they say, well, what can I help? What can I do? Use your privilege to help somebody out who may need it. Because we are in the society that we are in.
Right.
And you have to maneuver accordingly. That's
right.
it. So we can't press a button and make it a perfect world and make white supremacy not exist anymore.
Right.
So you have to work around it.
Right.
So it's like, at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to satisfy everybody. No, I'm not going to be able to satisfy everybody. Yeah. So the best thing we can do is use whatever privileges that we have and use it to propel the next person forward. Yeah. And especially to propel other Black women forward. And so that's why I wanted to have this discussion, because that is what the point of this is. Right. It's not to debate if mixed women have privilege over Black women, if mixed women should. No, we already know what it is. Most of these things are cut and dry conversations. Right. The point is they have privilege. What now? Right. And so there are people, and the best thing you can do is, like you said, use your privilege to propel another Black woman forward. And in that sense, we have to have some kind of unity. Right. Which again, I don't think we so much have an issue with as women. Right. It's more so when men come into play, which is a whole different conversation. Yes. Colorism and pitting biracial people against Black people. Yes. Against Black women, biracial women, should I say, against Black women. So I did want to say, have your brothers ever, because we know this affects women the most. Yeah. Have your brothers ever like talked about anything that was difficult for them as far as being men? Well, you said they had to fight, and we already know how people like light-skinned dudes are, like they do Drake and stuff. Yes, yes. But
so the only thing that I'm aware of is that they did have to fight in high school. Like the moment they entered high school, they started to have a couple of fights here and there, just because people were telling them that they were soft because they light skin and all this other nonsense. But it's interesting because they kind of get the other end of the spectrum, right? And I think it's because and I know in your video you said that you believe that white people can identify mixed people, but I don't know how true that is to a certain extent, right? And I believe you said to a certain extent as well, because my brothers, they're seen as, I don't know if it's black or Hispanic, yeah, but they're seen as colored pretty much. So the mixed spectrum they don't have. They're completely at the other end of Black. And they are treated as such. Do you hear me? Every time they're stopped by a cop, full search. Every time they
treated as Black men, right?
Yep. Every time they go to a courthouse, full search. Every time anytime they do anything and it involves a law enforcement officer, it is a full search. They get canines out. They get, I'm talking about everything. They can, this is no lie, y'all. My brothers had a flat tire with my dad. Had a flat tire. They're out on the road trying to change the flat tire. And this cop stops and asks them if everything's okay. They say yes. They just have a flat. They don't have a spare. So somebody had to come pick them up. Okay, cool. I get a letter from the sheriff's department telling me that my car was stolen. The same car that they are changing the tire for. They send me a letter to tell me my car is stolen. And I'm like, how did you come to that conclusion? Because you saw 3 black men trying to change my tire? Like, at no point does any of it make sense. Mm-hmm. But, you know, and my brother, bless his heart, the youngest one, they're at one, let's see, we're in 2021. I'll say 2019, every time my brother left the house, he got stopped. Every time. So, like, my parents tried changing up the car. So they, you know, my mom would take my old car and he would take the van. Stopped him every time. Try to change out the other car, right? Because we identified that they marked him by car.
Right.
Right. So then what would happen was he stopped taking my mom's car, started taking my grandpa's truck. As soon as they started tracking on that, they stopped him every time. And I was just like, this is crazy.
And I was going to mention that because I kind of noticed, even like listening to like J. Cole and other like mixed black guys, they don't get, I think they do get privileged to some degree, but it's not like women.
Right.
So when they interact with police, they get the same interaction that a dark-skinned black man will.
Yes, I will say. I will say. And my phone's about to die, so I just want to. I will say that I believe they obviously get privilege with women. Like,
right.
they get, because it's so funny how stuff kind of just works for them if there's a woman at the desk. Now, the moment there's a man there, they're automatically seen as black, and everything else goes downhill from there. Like, and I laugh because, you know, it's just so ridiculous, but it is the situation. Like, they can go into a store, ask a question, and the next thing you know, they're being accused of something completely ridiculous, and they just got there, and it's just like, how does this happen? But, you know, they get a ticket, go into the sheriff's office, talk to the lady behind the desk, and then the ticket's gone completely. And it's like what in the world? But but so there is a privilege there, but at the same time, like you said, they are definitely seen as black men for you know, for purposes of law enforcement and everything else.
Yeah. And I think in that video I did say, like, to an extent, because I always say to an extent with everything, because it's always gray area.
Yeah.
Because I think mixed people are lumped in with black people for the most part by white people until it's time to get some kind of people, like when they're trying to get some kind of people of color thing, and they don't want a unambiguous black person, or in the media, something like that, when they want to portray. But mostly this happens with women. It don't really happen as much with men. Like when they portray, a lot of times they have what started out as an ambiguous black woman, like in a lot of stories and books and stuff, and they'll go get a biracial woman. So in that stance, they understand color.
Right.
They understand the difference between a biracial black woman and a full black woman.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like they also, for the most part, they still do lump it together. But I think that personally, we have the power to say yay or nay.
Right.
Like, we have the power to be like, no, unambiguous black people are black, biracial people are biracial, and y'all need to stop conflating the two. But the issue with that is people like to use their privilege.
Right.
So if somebody is up for a movie role, are they going to really turn down the movie role because they're portraying a Black person? Or are they going the same reason why people don't just turn down movie roles because they get all slave positions? You want that money. So it's like I think we have to, as individuals, and obviously it's changing because the conversations are changing. And I don't think white people have changed all that much.
Right.
The conversations their eyes are being opened by the conversations that we're having and that we're pushing forward. And so I think it is important for us to make sure we separate those identities. Because like in the video, I say, if I have mixed children, I'm not going to just make my children identify as Black, because they wouldn't just be Black. They would be half Black and half whatever they're mixed with. And it's not fair to dismiss, even though white people did it for the 1-drop rule, which is so silly for Black people to try to abide by, because it was to create a pure white race. But like, it's not fair for my kid to have to go to their other parent's family and be like, well, I'm just Black. Because I'm half Black, I'm just Black, like, and totally dismiss a whole side. But then it's people, like, I've had people on Twitter in different places like get upset with me, or not even Twitter, we're under that video that I did about mixed people not being Black. Like, oh, well, I am Black. When I go somewhere, they see a Black person, they treat me like I'm Black. But again, it's like the Black identity is not, or should not be, wrapped around struggle.
Right.
And so, but then I guess that would come from the back and forth.
Yeah.
Of do we want to claim them? Do we not want to claim them? Like,
yeah, it's interesting because it's, like I said, it's really damned if we do, damned if we don't. Because if, to your point, if I go out and say I'm a Black woman, then it will be, you're not Black. It's like, but I am. And it's like, but you're not. You're mixed with something. What are you mixed with? So then the moment I identify that I'm mixed, okay, so like it's this weird double standard. And I get it, but it's like, but what do you want us to do? Like, oh my God, baby. Anyway, so I'm sorry. It's one of the situations of like, what do you really do? Because you can't please everyone, right? And so for children, it's especially difficult, because it's like, how do you tell your child you're only one or the other, and they come home and see a complete contradiction of that? Like, you know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense. And so I don't know. I think the teachers, like I told y'all before, because I was so difficult in elementary, they stopped telling me what I was, because they knew better, because I was going to correct them every time. And so you know, even at work, you know, we have that conversation. But one of the things that I do is I have conversations with my bosses, right? I let them know, like, hey, so you know, I don't know, whether it be previous jobs or, you know, I let them know, like, hey, like, I'm not really sure if he spoke to me like that because I'm a woman, or because I am Black, or because I am a quote unquote Black woman. I don't know, but we need to address it, right? Because this is a problem, because this can't be the standard moving forward. Because I'm the only Black person in the room at the moment. Right. But once we start adding more people, because we will, you can't have that same type of energy, right? A good example of this is our previous employer. I had an employee who she liked to wear wigs, right? Her natural hair was very short, and I think she had Bantu knots at the time, and so she had on a wig that day. We were leaving a meeting office, and I would never forget this. A white woman looked at her and said, "So is that a wig?" And when I tell you, my mouth dropped to the floor. I was like, is that appropriate? Is this HR appropriate? I don't understand. And so my employee answered the question. She proceeded to have the conversation. But she looked at it from a place of so the way she made it okay in her head is because she wears wigs, right? She wears wigs too. Oh, well, I was just asking because I have one that looks similar. Like, we're gonna see what HR thinks about that, because you got me confused, and I know you got her confused. Like, we not.
Because if she was a black woman wearing wigs, she would know not to ask that question.
Okay,
like, it's just not.
And I remember having a conversation with my boss. I was like, "Listen," I said, "Now my employee may not have been offended because she told me, she was like, no, it's fine, you know." She may not have been offended, but I was offended for her. Why? Because you don't do that. You haven't asked any white person I know if they're wearing a wig in a meeting. In a meeting,
like, in front of everybody.
Yeah, like you wouldn't. Why do you think that is appropriate now? It needs to be handled. And if it's not handled, then it's an HR conversation, because we don't have those type. It's not appropriate. Right. It's not appropriate.
And so I guess it's odd, like, so in that situation, they basically view you as a black woman.
Every time, yes. Yeah, because I got it too, honey. So I am seen as the how did they describe me? The outspoken woman in that department. So yes. But yes, I am definitely viewed as a black woman until asked. I have had a couple ask me, and again, it's like, is this appropriate? I don't think this is an appropriate conversation. But I also have to kind of blame the organizations, right? We have to blame the corporations for this, because if you don't have diversity training, you can't expect these people to know what is appropriate and what is not appropriate.
Girl, right? I had to teach them folks in my office. I had to teach them folks hard.
Listen, a lot. And I've had to tell a colleague several times across many different, companies that I've worked with, like, hey, so that's not appropriate. You can't ask that question. Don't do that. It's an HR issue. Well, I'm just curious, and he's been open before, she's been open before. And it's like, that's great, but if something should happen, this is an HR issue. Like,
because what they do is they get to work in a professional environment and ask inappropriate questions. And Black people aren't going to necessarily correct you, especially if they're just your coworkers or your subordinates, God forbid.
Right.
And you're in a professional environment. They have to keep themselves together.
Right.
So they can't respond the way they would if they were off the clock. And then, because they didn't respond a certain kind of way and tell them, so like, you're in a position where you can correct them.
Right.
But then they'll go outside, putting themselves in harm's way.
Right.
By asking some random Black woman on the street if she wear a wig, because she asked somebody at her job in a meeting and she didn't get pushback.
Right.
But it's inappropriate. But I'm not gonna tell you how inappropriate it is, because we're at work. We're in a corporate job. Like, I have to be professional.
Right.
And I don't want to have this conversation.
Right. Yeah.
So, and luckily you were there, because my job, it ain't no Black folks above that can, like, I had to go through a series of meetings and a series of like, they have like anonymous honor line type snitching on people. Like, I had to go through a series of that to gather these people together.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, y'all, and it's funny because I spent like 2 years when I left where we used to work together, and I switched, and I was for 2 years they was on my case almost, and I was biting back.
Yeah.
Every step of the way. And I'm like, listen, y'all need to, and one of my evaluations, I was just like, listen, y'all have some little discriminatory ways. Y'all need to get this together. You know, they don't like when you use that word. And I got called in the office for that.
Yep.
And they were like, and I was like, y'all need to have some kind of diversity girl. When I say that they have diversity training now, almost verbatim the words that I use.
Listen, let me tell you, sometimes you have to call a spade a spade.
Period.
Right.
Yeah.
Even if it don't impact you, you have to call a spade a spade. And you know, it's so funny because to your point about the anonymous tip line, right? Anytime I go to report somebody, the response of whoever it may be, like again, regardless of what organization I'm with, you know, whether it be a VP, whatever, my boss, whatever, whoever I'm going to report, their response is always, okay, and I'll keep it under wraps that you're the one who told. I don't give a damn if you tell them. Like, let them know.
They probably already know anyway.
Like, what is wrong with you?
They probably,
like, tell them.
They probably already know anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
And so this is an issue. And so that's why that's part of the reason, like, I feel like we're obviously there's strength in numbers. So obviously that we have more power together, because I can promise you in space, you know, we don't like to identify biracial people as Black anymore. We don't do that no more. They get to have their identity, and claim both of their parents.
Right.
And we get to have our identity, but at the same time, we can't pretend that we don't live in the society that we live in.
Right.
And in this society, we get lumped together enough to where we'll get more out of working together. We'll get more out of being on the same page. So that we, especially when you come from a place of privilege, especially when you are in an authoritative position and you can correct them, because a lot of people won't say nothing.
Yeah, agreed. Like, let me tell you something. Some of the stories I've heard and like the people telling me the stories, and I just like I guess because you know I can't ever keep a straight face. Like you can read me, honey.
You're the worst.
So I guess, you know, the shock and disgust is on my face as they're telling me this story. Only to kind of find out later that they said nothing. And I'm like, how? Because here's the thing. If this happens to a colleague, to an employee of yours, to anybody, and you let it occur, when it comes to you, are you just going to let it roll into?
Right.
Because at that point, now I have to ask you, okay, so what's different? Right? Because, oh, but I don't mess with her like that. But that's not the point. Right? This has nothing to do with that. You need to speak up. You need to, again, call a spade a spade.
Right.
Because if that was you in that situation, you would have wanted help.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's several, you know, there's always times where I'm on meetings and you can clearly tell somebody is looking for help on the call. Like, I'm sure you've been on meetings like that where they're trying their best to explain something and they just can't get there, or they're being, you know, pressed for an answer that they obviously don't have. And then, you know, it takes somebody and nobody says anything. And it goes on for minutes. And finally, I'm just like, okay, so it doesn't look like they have this answer. Maybe we could take this back, or, you know, maybe we can revisit this at another time. Maybe we should set up a separate meeting to discuss this without so many people on the call. Like, there is no reason for you to leave somebody just hanging if you see that they need help and you can assist. Like, I just don't understand it. And I'm not going to say that I've done it every time, because I mean, obviously I can't say that. We're all human. We make mistakes. But the moment I identify it, oh yeah. And if I'm not even there, to your point, if I'm not even there and I hear about it afterwards, oh, please believe higher the higher ranking command is gonna find out, because I don't tolerate disrespect for myself.
Right.
So therefore, I'm not going to tolerate disrespect for anybody else.
Right.
So
I was going to say something else. I forgot.
Any questions?
Let me see. Not really. Let me see. One person said that it was like, this is like in every, hey girl. One person said that it's like that in the military too, like it is in corporate environment.
Yep.
That ain't good. The military?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So you got to remember, okay. So you got to remember, right, that one, they didn't even want to integrate the military. They did just because they wanted, to send them off. But then from when my dad joined, like, he talks about it all the time, because he's an airhead. He's an old head. But when he joined the Marine Corps, he used to tell us the horror stories about what they would do to them versus,
wow.
Everybody else. So it's just, and them again trying to rank up and all of those different things is a whole lot harder for a person of color than, I would assume a white person. I can't speak to that, because I can only tell you what I've heard from my father.
Right.
Let me be very clear there. But yeah, I mean, that, to me, that makes sense, because again, you have to think about it. It's another system.
Right.
It's another system that they didn't technically want us in anyway. So, it only makes sense that they find other ways to try to, not promote from within or downplay any, because I know one of the things that they do have a serious issue with is sexual assault. Like, they don't correctly deal with that. But I think moving forward, they're supposed to have a special task force for that. But I mean, it's the same thing with women in the military, right? If the Marine Corps used to tell their soldiers that if they wanted them to have a wife, they would have issued them one. So first of all, that's what they used to tell the men, right? So if that's what they used to tell the men, do you think they wanted the women there? Like, it's one of those things where they just had to start, integrating, and they had to start doing these different things. So obviously, there's still some gaps there.
Facts.
And it's hard, and that's also another system where I've seen different stories where it's hard to kind of go to your command, right? It's hard to follow the chain, because to your point of our other previous location, the top of the command is right along with it, right? They agree with everything, so they're going to do their best to just not allow it to go, to further escalate, which is unfortunate, but that's also kind of the way the system works.
It is right. It's what it is. We just got to do our best to work around it, because it's all about power anyway. So people gonna wield whatever privileges they have to get to where they want to be.
And one of the things with that is you have to kind of look at the military as a what did it say? As like a stepping stone, right? You want to use it to get to wherever you're going to go to. So if you want to make it a career, well then, you need to find another woman that has made it a career and try to figure out what she did to get there. Like, how did she maneuver through these different struggles or through these different systems that seem to be harder than the rest? And then if it's just a step to the next thing, then go in, do your time, and then go home. Like, okay, cool, and then move on. Which I know is a whole lot easier said than done. Please don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to downplay anything, but at the same time, there's some things that's worth kind of fighting for, and then there's others that's just not. I'm not going to be here that long. I'm just doing my time and get out.
Right, and get out. Yeah. And that's the same thing people do at regular jobs. They just, okay, I'm just here to get my paycheck and go home. I ain't trying to sit and argue with y'all.
I had a mentor. She told me, she said, because I was looking at joining, going to a pharmaceutical company, and she told me, she said, listen, You get in there, because she used to work there.
Mm-hmm.
He said, listen, you get in there, you get the money that you want, and leave. She said, it is not a career because it will drive you crazy. She said, it's not a career. So you get in, get the money you want, and then leave. That's it. That's it. So.
What else did we have on that list? What else did we have? So let me see if I can log in.
Hold on. Let me see if I can find it.
Let's see. We talked about identity. We talked about anybody. Let me see if anybody had any questions. I don't think so. So I guess we've been up here for an hour and 15 minutes. That might have been all. Let me see. Hold on. It's going to turn my camera off for a second. Yeah, I think I just looked at Instagram. That's why the screen went black. She looking at her phone too.
Yeah, I'll send it in a minute. Sorry.
Oh, I did the same thing.
Okay.
Just been kicked out because so yeah, I think that was pretty much it. So what I'm saving that. I'm saving this. You said I'm saving this. No, we not frozen.
Sorry, y'all.
Notes in our Instagram DMs about what we were going to talk about, and so we were making sure we hit all the points. So we both was checking our phones and we exit out.
Right. I'm so sorry, guys.
So I think that was pretty much it. So what do you like to wrap up? Wait, hold on. Genesis said something. Hold on, I think she was talking to somebody. So what do you feel like? I mean, because you can't speak for all biracial or half Black people.
Right.
So what do you feel like the majority of them should identify as, or if people question them, or what do you think they should do, in your opinion? Of course, they can do what they want, but your opinion.
Yeah. So my opinion is, I think just identify with what you identify as, right? So for instance, and again, this goes back to, what we had a conversation earlier about. The reason I identify as mixed is because, I wanted to make sure that I identify both of my parents, right? All of my heritage, my Black side, my white side. I wanted to make sure that I was able to clearly articulate to whoever I was talking to that, hey, I have all this going on. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got this wonderful white mom, got this wonderful Black dad, all of that's cool. Now, if you don't necessarily identify with that, then I can't tell you to do that. Right. So that's where the conversation, honestly, I feel like that's where the conversation becomes a little gray, because then you always have those one-off people that ain't got nothing to do with nothing, talking about they identify as Black and they white, and it's and I say that in a loving way, but it's one of those things where you're always going to have somebody that abuses it. But at the same time, if I would have grown up with just the Black side of my family and never seen a white person a day in my life, it would have made sense to me that I identify as Black. Right? Because that is what I know. That is all that I see. I may admit later down the line, after I've had you as a friend for a while, like, yeah, my mom's white, but I know all these Black people. This is my family. Like this, you know what I mean? This is what I grew up with. But because that's just not what I have going on, then that's not what I was able to do. And that was really the exact reason why I would never identify as black only, because I did have all of my white family. And often, like I was with them, I saw a lot of them growing up, as well as my black family. So I saw, like, it was, now I'm babbling. Sorry, guys. Like, I'm so sorry. So, yes, I just spent equal amounts of time with both. And because of that, I wanted to identify both.
But see, I don't like, because somebody literally commented that on one of my posts last week, I think, and they were like on that video. And she was like, well, I identify as black because I was raised around my black side. But it's like, I understand kind of in a world where people keep asking you to choose, and where people so you're going to identify what the problem is. The same people would then be upset if you were around all white people, like, and then you identified as white. That's not okay.
Agreed.
But then when it's like, so,
and see, well, so it's, yes. So I agree with you 100% there, because I saw that in my head. But we have to remember also that we did have people pass as white.
Right.
So, and I mean, at that time, it wasn't no identity or whatever. It was, I'm white. I identify. You see me as a white woman, so I'm going to move forward as a white woman. Like, women have moved forward with, like, Lord help me, have moved forward like that for years, and left their family behind. Right? They were unable to talk to them. They were unable to speak to them. So it's not like it doesn't happen, but to your point, it doesn't make sense if you're clearly a brown girl or light skin or what, you have a tint, and you're, growing up with white people. To your point though about the black side, it's so funny because when you go to have those conversations, it also depends on how they were brought up. Right. So because I have friends that were mixed, but I remember being at their house and hearing their family tell them, "You're black." Like, you black? Stop, shut that up. You black. Like, what are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? So it really does takes your own kind of searching and identifying what it is that you want to identify.
Because that's how, in the 90s and stuff, that's how we, for the most part, the black community identified biracial people, half black people, people, and as black. It's like, oh, you black. Why are you trying to? So you can see this question. So she was asking about people who, like, biracial people who get offended when you call them biracial, which I've experienced before, because there was a lot of people under that video that was like upset that I said biracial people are biracial. So why do you think, like, they would get upset if a black person call them biracial?
I do not know. That doesn't make sense to me. With their comments, did they have anything other to say other than they didn't like being called biracial?
They were basically saying, like, the one person said that she identified because that's who her family was around. But really, no, they were just more so upset that I refer to them biracial. Even in other comment sections, they would get upset when I say, "Oh, you're not black, you're biracial." I don't know if it's like a emotional trigger or something where they feel like you're denying them or you are disregarding them, or I don't know.
So the only thing that I could think of for that would be for those people who are multiracial, right? I mean, obviously, you're not only biracial,
right?
But that to me, that sounds like kind of the other side of that spectrum, right? So that sounds like the black women saying, you're not Black, you're biracial. And then or you're mixed. And then when you say you're mixed, or say, oh, so now you don't want to be Black because you mixed. You see what I mean? Like, to me, that's what it sounds like. Like the very same thing.
Okay, I get
but in the mixed community. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I have never heard of anybody not liking the word biracial. I do not like the word mulatto.
Girl, Big Lotto.
With the exception of Big Lotto. But but I do not like that word just because of its definition.
Its connotation.
Yeah.
So like, I watched a video where she said she was basically trying to do what Black folks did with the N-word, right, and try to take back, because it was meant to be offensive. Like, it wasn't a term of endearment. And right, I guess she was trying to make it a term of endearment or take the word's negativity from it or whatever. Right. Which I don't think that people should get upset at her for that. Right. Especially if you use the N-word. Right. You shouldn't get upset. And especially at the end of the day, if you not mixed, it really wouldn't make any never mind anyway. Right. But I have seen a lot of, especially on Instagram, a lot of biracial women will get upset when you say that when you call them biracial. But I think it's more so because they feel rejected. Especially, it also matters in the tone that you say it. I have a hard time with that. Because you identified as biracial, so I know. And I think that's what it is. Because listen, the same thing I've said and I'm going to say is, you call a spade a spade. Like, if you are upset that you're upset that someone calls you biracial, but they would have to know that you're biracial to call you biracial. Right. So that would indicate to me that you provided this person some type of information to be able to identify you right as a biracial person. Like, so it's okay when they say it. Right. But then if an unambiguous Black woman say it, it's a problem. But I think that goes back to, like you said, I think it just goes back to, and again, I'm only speculating here because right, we both speculate. Yeah. I think it goes back to really just trying to be accepted. Yeah. So I think that really does work into the rejection, like you said. But I don't see, and I guess, like you said, it could be tone, but I don't see how being identified as a biracial person means that you're rejected. Now, I will say that growing up as a mixed child, you will be rejected. Like, that's going to happen, right? Because you're not white and you're not Black. So you're going to have to find those kids like you. That reminded me what I was going to say. So I remember you saying something about, you don't have to tell this story if you don't, because I don't remember the whole story and I don't want you telling your personal business up here. But something about, like, the way white people treated you, or even the white people in your own family. Yeah. So so I have an amazing family, but at the same time, it would be crazy to believe that all of the white people in my family accept me. Right. Or didn't, at the very least, even if they loved you, then they would say things that weren't okay. Right. And so it's just one of those things where, people have to kind of learn to maneuver around that. Right. I know that we had a couple of people that may or may not have been have a couple of redder necks than the rest, and they may or may not have had their own opinion about things, right? But whenever we were around, they were not necessarily allowed to say
too much of anything, right? I mean, we could see that there was some frustration, but not necessarily communicated. When we would go out, I know my grandma, bless her heart, my white grandma, as she was getting older, because she had Alzheimer's, as she was getting older and getting further into her illness, she became very much aggressive. Right? She was always a proper woman. She was always very polite. She would never say anything rude. But I remember we went out to McDonald's because she wanted McDonald's that day. And it was my mom, me, my dad, my two brothers, and her. So I'm sitting with her at the table waiting on everybody else to come. And this white guy is staring at us. And my grandma was like, look at that fool. Like, look at that fool. What is wrong with him? He ain't ever seen a family eat before. What is wrong with him? What are you looking at? Like, my grandbabies are beautiful. You ain't gonna do it. But it was just interesting to see her do that, because she had, like I said, for so long, she was this well-reserved woman who never really communicated any kind of any frustrations that she had. None of that, right? Because when she was brought up, she had to be prim and proper. She couldn't say anything out the way. She couldn't. So it was interesting and an eye-opener to me, because knowing that she saw that then told me she saw it as we were growing up.
Right, exactly. And
you know what I mean?
She was just trying to keep, save face, or like keep calm.
Yes.
And like be poised instead of, but now, honey, when you get old, you can say whatever you want to say.
Oh, yeah, honey, she was ready, okay? And I will say that I remember, and I just told my boyfriend this today, my granddaddy is Black, and I will never forget, I was like 13 and he was driving me to my cousin's house, and we always had a very open conversation relationship. We were able to, talk about anything. And out of nowhere, he says, I wasn't for interracial relationships. Like my jaws dropped, my eye, I was like, what? And my grandma in the back seat, like, Zeke.
And you said this was your black grandfather, right?
Yeah. My grandma's in the back, like, Zeke, shut up. What are you doing? Because she just trying to have a peaceful ride. And she knows that if he got me riled up, it was going to be anything but peaceful. So I was like, so I didn't say anything. And he says, your dad started dating your mom. And I'm like, you and these white women. Why are you always dating these white? Stop dating these white women. And, she gets pregnant and he's just like, oh, you got her pregnant. Like, he said, but then she had you. And I fell in love with you. He said, and then I fell in love with her for having you. And then your daddy couldn't act right. And I couldn't for life of me figure out what but that it was kind of like, it was a shock for me, because for some reason I had assumed, like, never in my mind had that come to me, right? Because he's a pastor. To be sure, he's okay with interracial dating.
Right.
Why would he not be? So I just assumed that this was a thing. So after he told me that, I was like, I wonder what my grandma on the other side and Papa think. But I never asked, because like I said, she was prim and proper. She would
stay off that topic.
Honey, you better believe it. Mm-hmm. But like I said, as time progressed, I was able to identify that, it was something that she identified early on too. Because I'm talking about, we hadn't been at that McDonald's very long. She was on that man and she was on high, okay? But my papa, her husband, oh yeah, you mess with his grandchildren, honey. He didn't give a damn what it was about. He was gonna shoot your ass. Like, don't mess with his babies, okay? He didn't give a damn. So yeah, it was interesting. But I mean, what can you do?
What can you do? Girl. But keep on pushing.
Right. Did they have anything else to say about that biracial thing? Because I really like.
About what?
that biracial vehicle?
Oh, let me see. That was pretty much it.
Okay. And I'm sorry if I can't. I'm sorry that I can't answer that because, like I said, I've never.
We both speculating because you're not a biracial person who want to identify as only Black. Then
right.
You can't tell them how they think. Let me see. This is recent. Because white people know. Well, let me read the big letters. Biracial people are not Black. They just choose to ignore it when it suits them and acknowledge it. Exactly. That's being able to wield their privilege.
Right.
And do what you want. We get to choose how we identify and how we,
So to me, I've always been identified as Hispanic by Black people or white people, excuse me. Like,
Trevor Noah said that same thing.
I remember at Central, I had a white teacher and she was like, so what would you put? Hispanic? And I was like, girl, no, what are you talking about? Like, Hispanic?
Girl, she was like biracial, half Black, half white people really look. I mean, I see how they look Hispanic because that's basically what Hispanics are, except a lot of them are Taino or like Native. They mixture with Native, but yeah. I don't know. I feel like it's a different look. Especially from like the J-Los.
Listen, I do too. I agree wholeheartedly. So that's why I was like, girl, no, what are you talking about? Like, I don't.
Somebody in the comments said they assume you were Hispanic as well. Yes. See,
listen, I don't know, but see, and that goes back to like dating, right? Because you had put up somebody after the lady that said white people identify Black people as or mixed people.
She said, is white women antagonistic towards mixed women? You feel like that's a thing, or have you not experienced it?
I don't necessarily. I don't think I've experienced that because, I don't think I've experienced that because I like
even if it was in a place of work, they would probably treat you like a Black woman, like they would treat a Black woman.
Yeah, I think that their frustration. That's the word I'm going to use. I think that their frustration comes from the fact that, I just ain't about to let anything slide in that room.
Right. They don't like that. They don't like that. And they will try you.
Listen, and the men hate it when they see me coming. I'm trying to tell you because it's not happening. But
she said that's what I get about her.
Okay, so to her point. So growing up, and I think we've had this conversation, like in high school, Black guys did not really approach me. Like, not really. The people who approached me, well, the men who approached me were Hispanic men.
Oh, so they was Hispanic too?
Yeah, because they because
were they like Latin? Were they like Hispanic or were they like Mexican? I don't know the difference.
No, they were like
if I'm being ignorant.
So they were Dominican, usually Dominican, Puerto Rican, and Hispanic, or Dominican, Puerto Rican, and there was another. I want to say Colombian, but I don't know if that's right. But anyways, so then when I got to college, so I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm not their cup of tea, right? Like, whatever. So I get to college and they're like, hey girl, da 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 da, and I'm just like, okay, I don't know what this means. And that goes back to the whole light skin, good hair thing. Mm-hmm. And then I started dating, talking, whatever we did in college. Y'all know. And so it was just kind of, to your point, the same kind of thing. Like, it's like, I don't really think that you like me.
Right.
But that goes back to Will. You remember that whole situation? Like, you like the idea of me because you like what I look like. But baby, you didn't you didn't know what was
Until
coming in this package.
until he.
So it was one of those things where it's just like, and you know, I've had a guy tell me, a black man tell me, you know, I want to marry you, this, that, and the third. And I'm like, you don't know me. Well, I like where your mind is. You're smart, but you just
No.
stay at home.
But men do that, bro. Men do that. They get on my nerves. Men do that. And that's why I'm like, you don't even. No, they like the way you look.
Right. So you really, so I had to start looking at myself like, bro, do I give off trophy wife? Because I don't think I give off trophy wife. Like, why? What in the hell makes you think I'm just gonna sit at the house? Like, I don't understand. And then he came back and told me, like, yeah, you know, you could come to the corporate parties with me and dress up and
oh, he's trying to show you off like a
yeah. I was like, yeah, this ain't it. So, you know, but
so I mean, I would feel some type of way like if men date you. Do you ever feel some type of way if they obviously only want to talk to you because you're mixed? Oh, I was gonna say too, like, you remember when we like, what was that, 2019 when we road trip to New York? And I was like, no, I'm just warning you. Everybody gonna think you. People probably gonna start.
Yes,
because they probably gonna think you Spanish because they think I'm Spanish. But that's because a lot of Dominicans and a lot of like South Americans, Hispanic, Panamanian, they black. They blacker than all of us combined.
Yeah.
So they think. So I was like, you know, they gonna like, and then. We were walking down 125th Street and people like people were like stopping you and stopping. Well, I'm like, you know, them New York dudes are aggressive,
right? And I was
like, I told them, they gonna think you just in case somebody gonna speak Spanish to you because they gonna think you Hispanic.
Y'all, and just for your information, I'm a Southern girl, so New York was way too aggressive. Way too aggressive. I was just like, oh my gosh, like what is going on? But yeah, I don't know. So
what did I say? What question did I ask you before? Because I was gonna forget if I did. Do it make you feel some type of way if men approach you, mostly black men, because they the mostly ones who do it, approach you only because you mix? Like,
so it does, but it takes a little bit of time to figure it out. Right. So it's
yep.
It's one of those things where it's like, okay, so you know, we're having conversations, trying to figure out what's going on, but they don't really have any depth. And I'm like, but you know, everybody for some reason, I won't say that. For some reason, these same guys that only date me because I'm mixed don't think I'm smart.
And that's the thing. And that's why it's insulting. Yeah. It's like they have this view of you that because you have the type of hair they like, the type of skin complexion they like, nothing else matters. Yeah. They already came with this preconceived notion of who they think you are. Mm-hmm. And then they get surprised, like, you know who, when your personality is a little bit too black for them.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Because I can tell you, like, I've stopped so many talks. I don't know what they're called.
Whatever it's called.
Right. I've stopped so many in the middle of text messages because I'm like, bro, this is really insulting my intelligence. Like, you really think I'm a bimbo out here? Like, and you know, it's interesting because when they meet just a woman that has their shit together and is not going for that other stuff, they find it interesting that we know how to add 1 + 1 is 2, and what you gave me is not 2. Like, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, I think
the facts.
Yeah, For me, and you know what, it's interesting that you worded it like that, because I think I've never identified it as mixed specifically.
Okay.
I knew it was something, but I could not figure out what it was. So I was just like, why? Like, what is this? This is weird. Like, why do we keep going in this kind of pattern? And I remember being in that holding pattern for a little while. Like, what is this?
Because
like,
if you wouldn't be able to recognize it as quickly as a Black woman would be able to.
Right.
So because I'm more unambiguous, I'm able to see. This is why I wear glasses all the time. I also can't see good, but like it sometimes it do take time.
Yeah.
And then you start hearing them say little comments, and you start hearing them say, oh, well, you not this, or you not too dark. Oh, one guy told me, like, you remember when I lived with this other white girl, and she used to hang around a lot of Black people. We went out, and some dude she was friends with, we went out to dinner, and she was like, he was like, oh, you don't look like the other Black girls. You look different. I'm like, what?
Listen,
I don't look like the other Black girls.
Listen, I asked this girl about this guy years ago, and I don't remember. It was a white girl, and I was like, hey, like what's up with old boy? Like, you know, what does he go for? That's what I asked. I said, what does he go for? And so her answer is, what did she say?
Oh, she was talking about talking about my vision.
Exactly. But her answer was, I mean, he likes, like, you know, like white girls. So I mean, like, you're lighter. So that, what? And I was just like, and like the people, because I had Black friends with me, and my friends were like, what the hell did you just say?
Right.
And
like, what?
Like, and you could see her struggle so hard to answer that. And I was like, that, so it took you this long, and that's what you came up with. That's a problem. Guess ever dated a colorless Black man? Have you ever heard Black men say disparaging things about power? Yes, and yes. So, and that goes back to the whole identifying it thing, right? Because I was not, like, I was not sure of what these things meant, right? I was like, what? So again, and I think you mentioned this in your other video about them complimenting me by
like being negative about
negative about pure Black women. And I was just like, that's a weird flex, but like, why would you do that? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But like I said, this goes back to like during college and understanding, okay, I'm mixed, understanding, and then even having conversations with you, because you remember when you explained to me the Willie Lynch letter. We had that whole conversation in reference to all of that, why we think the way we do, et cetera, et cetera. And then even to this day, it's like, we're still doing this? Like, why? But to answer your question, I'm sorry. Yes, I've, I guess you can call it, dated Black, colorist Black men. And that's the man that wanted me to be a stay-at-home wife. And he really didn't have anything other to say except for he just wanted somebody to be on his level. And I was just like,
well, first of all, what does that even mean?
Exactly. So I was just like, I don't understand. But at the same time, I knew that I don't know how to word it. He preferred lighter skinned women. And when I asked why, he never really gave me a reason.
Because he don't have a reason.
Exactly.
That he don't have a reason that's not horrible.
Exactly. So when you can't have, like, when you can't give me information, I don't understand
The sound is doing
why
something
this is even a topic.
weird. The sound is doing something weird. Hold on.
Okay. But yeah.
Oh yeah, it's your sound. Did you say earphones out? Maybe it's that. It's like a sound weird. Do y'all hear it? Or maybe it's just weird for me.
How's it sound now?
Okay, you bet. Okay.
But yes, so
keep talking. Maybe it'll go away.
So I've heard men say disparaging things about Black women around me. But again, depending on the time frame, sometimes I really honestly didn't understand what was being said.
Right.
And then other times I would be like, I would ask them why was it the way they thought that way? Like what makes you think that this is okay? Right. And what I often found was they didn't have a reason. Like they rarely ever had a reason for bad mouthing. Huh?
What you look like.
Yeah, they rarely ever had a reason for bad mouthing Black women. And our favorite friend, his whole frustration was because of attitude. He didn't want attitude. And I was like, do you ever think that maybe you trigger said attitude? Like,
or you did something.
Right. Like, what do you mean? So,
and I was about to say something too. I forgot. I forgot.
I hope that answers her question.
Yeah. Have you ever heard? Yeah. So I remember what I was about to say, because like it might take a while for you to like, especially if you are Black, you ain't been a Black woman your whole life. Certain you are listening and processing things to an entirely different filter. And so when it's until you have the vocabulary and until you have the experience to be able to be like, okay, this is a red flag. Like it's like maybe his experience, maybe his ex-girlfriend was that bad, but it's like
no. Yes, that is spot on. So I would
they saying the sound is weird. Hold on. Is it both? Is it me or is it her or is it both of us? She said the audio is demonic. So I said it sounds like alien. Is it me? Can y'all hear me clearly? Is it both of us? She might big all demons. To start acting crazy when it hit you go over a certain amount of time.
How's it sound now?
Oh, I guess it's both of us. Let me get on my computer. Hold on. Okay, am I still weird? Yeah, I hear an echo.
Yeah.
Oh, hold on. Maybe we got. Wait. Sorry, y'all.
DJ Danielle. You're muted.
My bad. See?
Okay. Well, maybe we just need to pick this up another time then. But I will say, to Danielle's point, at a certain point, the reason I asked why was because I was trying to figure out if it was something that the guy was, being weird about, or if, it was something with his ex. And so, like she said, I did initially think that, okay, maybe they just date weird people. Like, maybe the circumstances are weird. But then when I started to see a pattern, that's when I started to bring in other people to identify, like, is this just, like, what does it sound like to you? And usually those people would be my cousin and friends who were Black and were able to identify, a little bit better than what I was hearing. Because, unfortunately, I couldn't hear everything. So I hope that answers your question, Jinjin. It looks like
okay. Wait.
Welcome back.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, girl.
Oh, I'm about to break my phone. Okay, so I just have to. I think my phone, when my battery gets low, it start acting crazy. Can y'all hear me? My bad. Yeah, Danielle using StreamYard. And I had my computer on mute. Wait. And I had my computer on mute. And so, yeah. So when my phone died, starts dying. It started doing weird stuff because it did this the other day when I was on live. So, yeah. So, but I'm good now, I think.
Yeah, so just to catch you up while you were off, and I don't even know if they were able
I still heard you because my phone was on.
Okay, cool.
But go ahead, finish what you were saying.
No, that was it. I was just saying that to your point. I just assumed that it was the last relationship. Like, okay, well, whatever.
Right.
And then when I as time progressed, I'm like, bro, everybody can't be having these badass relationships. Like, what is going on?
Right.
So I started having conversation with friends and my cousins, like, who were Black women. Like, listen, this is what was said. What do you think? You know what I'm saying? And they would give me their opinion, and then I would obviously take that and move forward. Cause, your girl. Honestly, I don't be knowing sometimes.
Right, and I can see that point because if you don't know, you don't know.
Right.
So it's like you have to be able to identify certain behaviors and certain patterns that people say and for me it was my eye color. So it was like every time somebody talked to me, they got to mention my eye color. Is that the only good thing about me?
Right.
You don't care about any of my accomplishments. You don't care about anything. You don't care about my personality. You don't care about anything but my eye color. So I imagine it's similar to, and the thing is, the eye color is something that's so small, but because a lot of Black people, and especially Black men, made it such a big deal, it became a thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that was the only thing they paid attention for. And Ricky has said the Willie Lynch letter wasn't real. I heard that too.
He said what?
Can you hear me? The sound sounded funny again to me. I don't know. It's probably time for us to get out of here. But no, he said that it was fake or something. I don't know. That the Willie Lynch letter was fake.
Oh.
Which I heard that too. But I don't know. Either way, we in the same position.
Right. Right.
The same frame of mind. But yeah, so we can go ahead and get out of here since it's trying to kick us. The internet is trying to kick us off anyway. Somebody was like, "Can we do a part 2?"
Yes, ask them to give us questions, and we can have that on part 2.
Have Black men and Black women try to own the dating and marrying choices of? I mean, yeah,
So
we do that. And that's why they be growing, mixed people grow up, biracial people grow up confused because we telling them one thing, then we saying something else.
yeah, and then it's interesting because, and I'm sure you've heard this before, like being light skinned, you're only supposed to date dark skin.
Yeah.
And then, if you're mixed, and again, depending on what side of the spectrum you're on, right?
Yep.
If you're mixed, then you're taking the Black men. And so you need to, you know what I'm saying? And it's damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Right.
Black men, to your earlier point, don't want, quote unquote, well, I don't want to say that. They have such high opinions of themselves, right? But don't want these women, but then don't want these women to date other people.
Girl, that's a whole other topic.
Right. So it's very interesting.
Yep.
And being called a what?
Bed wench.
It's a real obsession. I'll be attacked. Being asked if I'm mixing. Listen. It's crazy though. This is really crazy that people really do all of this, but it really does get that serious. Like, luckily now, I think that, like you said, we've grown to a point where "what are you" is not the very first question that comes out. But please believe, if they think you're mixed, honey, it's gonna be one of the first questions they ask. Like, and it's sad, but it's definitely where we are.
Yep.
And
so
we could probably have another conversation about the marrying.
Yeah. Because that whole thing is a thing.
Yeah.
Because that's a whole other topic of conversation. We done been up here for 2 hours at the beginning. I'm like, so we won't be here for 2 hours.
Hey, look at us here for 2
Look
hours.
At us. So we'll do a part 2 at some time. We busy folks. I ain't seen you in I don't know how long. The pandemic at all.
I know.
I
So
nobody
just ask the question so you can definitely provide some answers. Well, at least our opinion, if we can,
right?
What we think of it. So,
but all right, thank y'all for tuning in.
This has been fun.
Yes, Ricky said smash the like button.
Thank you, Ricky.
Yeah, said part 2 will be ready.
Yes, make sure you get in your questions if you have questions. Look at me acting like I.
Look at you! You a YouTuber! You a YouTuber! Go start your YouTube channel.
Girl, too much. I'm too much. I
guess we can put it in the comment section of this video when it go up.
Yeah.
So we can see. So and so we can pivot away from kind of this topic and talk about other stuff because we do share culture, we do share some identity, and so we are in the same space. And so what was that we were saying about something we were saying towards the end about Black men identifying, and I was like, it's a thing. I don't remember, but that's a whole other topic of conversation. So we'll leave that. So, all right, we will see y'all next time.
All right. Have a good night, everyone. Thanks for having me, Danielle.
Of course. Thanks for coming. Thanks for spending so much time.
No problem.